Hello and welcome to the Haaretz Podcast. I'm Allison Kaplan-Summer in Tel Aviv. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been running the country while on trial for corruption for 5 years now, and over the past year has been a wartime prime minister while his closest aides are being investigated and charged with serious national security crimes in 2 cases that are known by the nicknames Bibi leaks and Qatar gate. It's a situation that would be top headlines on a regular basis in normal times. But these are not normal times. The war in Gaza and its terrible toll drags on. We have the latest bloodshed in Syria that has the Israeli Druze community in crisis. And as of last week, Netanyahu's coalition lost its ultra-Orthodox parties, leaving the country under minority rule. But one person seems to be paying close attention to Netanyahu's legal woes: President Donald Trump. And this has brought the issue back into the spotlight as Trump and his Republican allies in Washington are now actively, in word and deed, doing what they can to, in Trump's words, quote, save Bibi Netanyahu. Here with me for an update on the criminal cases and Trump's interventions is Bar Peleg. Bar is the Haaretz reporter who's played a key role in the Bibi leaks and Qatar gate revelations, and our conversation is coming up.
I'm Esther Solomon, Editor-in-Chief of Haaretz English. Around the world, the fight is on to preserve critical and independent media. Haaretz, Israel's oldest newspaper, upholds its long tradition of accurate, committed, and incisive journalism, refusing to bend its reporting to pressure from any government or leader. A digital subscription to Haaretz gives you up-to-the-minute news and analysis in English from journalists who live Israel's reality and are committed to covering the Middle East and its global repercussions. At the same time, your subscription supports the cause of a free press that holds the powerful to account in Israel and around the world. I invite you to become a subscriber to Haaretz now. Just go to Haaretz.com and use the code Haaretz10, that's Haaretz with the number 10, for 10% off an annual subscription.
Bar Peleg, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Bar, with so much going on in Israel, and you seem to be covering it all as well, from Gaza to Syria to our current political crisis, these multiple criminal investigations into Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and even his ongoing criminal trial do not get as much coverage as they would in normal times. But from what you know from your sources, Baal, these criminal matters, aren't they very much on Netanyahu's mind and a major consideration when he makes his political and even his military decisions?
We're saying that for the last 653 days, this is not a normal time. So things that should have been major headlines in the past here in Israel are now a little bit pushed to the side. But we have here one trial that has begun for one of Netanyahu's former spokespersons. It's not something that happens every day here in Israel. And also we have another case that started here in Haaretz that we exposed about Qatar gate. These are things that in the past should have been like for years in the media. But these times are not normal. And so much things are going on in Israel and also in Gaza and in Iran and in Syria, apparently, and everywhere in the Middle East, so things are pushed to the side. After I said that, yes, everybody thinks Netanyahu's acts are influenced by his criminal case in court. He needs to testify 2 times, maybe 3 times, sometimes a week. And we always think that his acts or his decisions are being influenced by that. But now we can see that after Trump wrote that Netanyahu needs to take care on such big things and then to go to court in the morning after, even Netanyahu said that himself, that the prime minister can't be with criminal cases because we need to know that what he is doing is basically on what is important to the state. And when we see how Netanyahu acts in this war, I can't say that I'm fully thinks that he's doing what's good for Israel. And I think that maybe if he didn't have his criminal charges, maybe this war could have been end sooner than what's going on today.
So, Bar, for the listeners, let's review exactly what's happening. We know, as you said, that Netanyahu is mid-trial on corruption, testifying several times a week. He often gets interrupted, says he can't testify because of the fighting in Syria, the fighting in Gaza.
Or he gets notes during his testimony.
And various political crises. He even gets to stop testifying for that. Back in March, you came on the podcast to explain these other two serious unfolding investigations, both of which have nicknames. One is called Bibi Leaks, and the other, which grew out of Bibi Leaks, is nicknamed Qatar Gate, based on evidence uncovered in the media, including your investigations, that close aides to Netanyahu were working indirectly or directly for Qatar, the country that was funding Hamas as it was planning the October 7th attacks. So can you give us a quick update since March on where those investigations stand?
So a lot happened since March, and I will try to do this as short as I can. We will start on Bibi Leaks. The trial was supposed to start on November. Feldstein, Netanyahu's former spokesperson, one of them, was accused in the Bibi Leaks case. And with him was another soldier from the Israeli army who was accused as well. He gave Feldstein the secret documents, and Feldstein, with others from Netanyahu's close allies, leaked them to the Bild, to the German newspaper. So everything that I said now happened on last November. I mean, we're like almost a year from there, and the case didn't started in court. We didn't hear any evidence and nothing. The reason is because there is another criminal investigation. First of all, in the same case, against two other, or maybe three others, from Netanyahu's closest people. One of them is Futlick, the other one is Ofer Golan, and the third one is Jonathan Urich. Jonathan Urich is, I think, Netanyahu's closest advisor. The Attorney General said a week ago that she's going to accuse Jonathan Urich in the same case, in the Bibi case, after hearing. So she said that he will need to go through a hearing, and then after that, maybe she will accuse him. That means that we have a lot of time until that will be a final decision on his behalf. I think it will take maybe a year until a decision will be made. And until a decision will be made about Jonathan Urich, nothing in the Bibi case can start, because the other Feldstein and the soldier that I talked about, his name is Ari Rosenfeld, they need to wait until the decision about Jonathan Urich will be made, because they want to get the evidences against Jonathan Urich, because they can help them in their case, that they want to tell the judges that they are innocent. There is another investigation that's going on Qatar Gate that also reflects the Bibi case, because there is an investigation that is continuing against the same people, against Feldstein, that we talked about, the spokesperson, against Urich, that we talked about, the closest advisor, and against this Futlick guy, that he was Netanyahu's campaigner for the Likud. So Qatar Gate is still under investigation, and I mean, just a few weeks ago, the Attorney General said to the Supreme Court that it will take something like around 60 days, not to end the investigation, just to end the Shin Bet involvement in this investigation, which means that we still have like, I don't know, a lot of months here in the Qatar Gate case. And until these two investigations against Jonathan Urich in the Bibi leaks and against all the other people that I said on Qatar Gate will end, these trials will not start.
And as we were talking about being a factor in Netanyahu's considerations, the more the war goes on and possibly the government falls or is on the way to falling and we have new elections, that's probably going to drag all of this out even longer.
Netanyahu thinks, and also his aides thinks, that all these investigations are political.
A witch hunt.
A witch hunt, you're right. When Jonathan Ulrich first went to being investigated, Gidi Weitz and I published that, the police officers came to his house, knocked on the door, told him, come, we need to investigate you. And then, he said, I have a busy schedule with Prime Minister, I can't come. It's a matter of national security. So he gave the police officers his iPhone, his telephone, and they just left and told him, okay, so come afternoon. I don't know any other suspect that can say to the cops, I can't come today, I will come later on today, okay? Only Netanyahu, only Prime Minister you schedule with him is investigations. And at that investigation that he eventually came at that day, he sat there and said, this is a political investigation, I will not cooperate with you. And this is how his first two investigations were. He sat there, didn't give a direct answer, said that this is like a witch hunt. This is like a political investigation, and that this is an attempt to do a coup on Netanyahu.
Baal, one of the reasons that this is back in the headlines is because following their teamwork in the attack against Iran, all of a sudden, President Donald Trump, leader who has his own complicated relationship with the law, has been intervening in Netanyahu's criminal trial and investigations, both in words and in actions. So less than 2 days after the 12-day conflict with Iran, Trump puts up a rather rambling post saying that he was shocked to hear that Israel is continuing its ridiculous witch hunt against their great wartime prime minister. He deserves much better than this, and so does the state of Israel. And Trump demanded that the trial be canceled immediately, all caps, or a pardon given to a great hero, and warned this travesty of justice cannot be allowed. He put justice in quotes. It was the United States of America that saved Israel, Trump wrote, and now it is going to be the United States of America that saves Bibi Netanyahu. Baal, what's the reaction by the government, coalition, opposition, and the Israeli public to this really unprecedented development of a U.S. president speaking out in an internal legal Israeli matter?
I remember that I woke up in the morning. It was in the middle of the night here in Israel, this tweet. And I woke up in the morning and I saw all the push notifications and all the messages that we got about it. And I said, okay, these are crazy times that the United States president is now just tweeting about a criminal case here in Israel and wanted the charges to be dropped or to give him pardon. It's, as you said, this is unprecedented, what happened with Trump and this trial. And also that the U.S. ambassador came to court last week. He came to court, and as he said to the reporters that asked him, what are you doing here? He said, I wanted to see this from in my own eyes. After that, he tweeted on X, he said that President Trump was right. And we saw also a photo of him and Netanyahu with a Bugs Bunny doll. The Bugs Bunny doll is something that the prosecutor asked Netanyahu about when he was investigating him about something that happened 30 years ago with Milchen in New York. And Netanyahu's aides that heard this thing, that Netanyahu in the middle of the war needs to answer about a Bugs Bunny doll 30 years ago. And they said that they understood that this is ridiculous a little bit. And they just made a whole story about it. So now the Bugs Bunny doll that appeared only in 2 questions in this investigation is now the face of the trial, which is not true.
It's like pink champagne and cigars. It's something that, they can grab onto.
It's pink champagne and cigars. This is how Netanyahu's side wants to minimize the criminal acts that Netanyahu is being accused of.
And now the Trump administration is joining in.
And now the Trump administration is not only joining in, they're doing other steps. They're saying that these charges need to be dropped or that he needs to get pardoned. And you asked how is the Israeli public gets it, and also the opposition and the coalition. I think that this is the most interference that we saw from the United States in Israel internal matters.
But beyond the words and the rhetoric coming from Trump and from Huckabee, there are now some substantial actions that you've reported on in which the United States has used its power to interfere with these investigations against Netanyahu. You reported that there has been direct intervention by the U.S. government in attempts by the police to investigate a central figure in Qatargate. So who is Jay Futlick, and what did you find out about the refusal of U.S. officials to let the police question him?
Jay Futlick is a lobbyist. He's a United States citizen, and he's a lobbyist for Qatar. He has a company called Third Circle. They work for the Qatar embassy in the United States. It's all legal, and everything is good, and it's on the table. What happened in Qatargate is that, and what I'm saying now are facts, not claims. This Jay Futlick guy paid Eli Feldstein, we talked about him in the Bibi files, that was Netanyahu's spokesperson. He paid him salary for a few months. Feldstein says that he paid him because Feldstein, he didn't get money from the Prime Minister's office because he failed the security clearance from the Shin Bet. But Futlick says that he paid Feldstein to work for him to help the hostage families because he works with Qatar. So the Israeli police wants to investigate Futlick to try and understand why did he pay him. They didn't get a full answer from him what happened there. The money from Futlick got to Feldstein through a third party, a businessman in Israel called Gil Birger. This is a businessman that worked in several other big businesses with countries in the Gulf. So everything seems here not kosher for the police investigation, and they wanted to investigate Feldstein and also Futlick. So they contact Futlick and they scheduled 3 times an investigation in the United States. These kind of acts happen almost all the time, that Israeli authorities come to other countries to investigate other suspects. It happens, it's regular, it also happens here in Israel. But what happened in this specific case is that he was supposed to be investigated on April, and then it was cancelled. One of my sources told me that the cancellation of his first investigation on April was because of the Americans. But people from the police and from the DA attorney told me, like, no, it's just bureaucratic things. Everything will be okay. We will investigate him. So we thought that he will be questioned a month after that, on May. Then, when we got to May, his mother passed away. So this investigation didn't happen. And it was scheduled for June. Then on June, he was supposed to be questioned again. But it didn't happen. What we exposed last week, Gidi Weitz and I, is that the people from the American Department of Justice told the people here in Israel, to the people from the police and from the DA attorney, that they got a direct order to stop this questioning. And at the end, it didn't happen. And there isn't a new date for this questioning of this Jay Futlick guy. And he has a major role in this investigation, the big investigation, to understand why he paid Eli Feldstein. Did he pay him to work for Qatar? Or did he pay him just to bring him his salary from the Prime Minister's office? To try and get and understand what is the truth, we need to ask Jay Futlick some questions, and he needs to answer them to the Israeli police. And now we don't have a date for that to happen, and it can stuck the case. It can stuck the whole investigation on this path.
And now, Bar, on another front involving Trump, Netanyahu is accusing the Biden administration and the Democrats in the United States of funding a coup against him in Israel, and this sort of fits in against calling the trials a witch hunt, and the deep state and, the left is trying to unseat him, and he's brought it into U.S. politics as Trump and the Republicans are encouraging kind of as their war against foreign aid. Trump and his Republican allies are accusing the Biden administration of transferring over $1 billion to leftist groups in Israel who were protesting the judicial overhaul. So can you tell us about the reporting on that?
It happened in the last few days, so I don't have all the answers for that, but I can say a few things. First of all, there was like a big table that Netanyahu and his party published of the money, how it got from the United States, from USAID to the protest here in Israel. But they're saying that the years that the money passed is between 2021 and 2024. The protests against Netanyahu were on 2023. So, first of all, we need to put things in the direct timetable. After that, I understood that it's not $1 billion. It's something like $600,000 that went from the United States to Israeli protest movement. Here in Israel, during these protests, there was a big campaign of donations. Most of the donations that came to the protest movement came from high-tech people, that there was a big high-tech protests, and also from, regular people who gave 10 shekels, 20 shekels, and 100 shekels for the protest movement. Netanyahu's party says all the time, since 2020 and until these days, that most of the money for the protests against Netanyahu came from foreign countries. They didn't show the public a real proof about it until this week with this document that says that some of the money came from the US government. But as I said, as I understood, it's not $1 billion and not $1 million. And we need to read this more and to understand really what happened there. But these accusations that Netanyahu's party and Netanyahu himself are accusing his opposition is only another tool to try and show his opposition as non-patriotic and as people who work against the Israeli people. I mean, if you ask me, the Likud party need to explain a little bit more how Qatari money came to their people and not how American money allegedly came to the Israeli protest movement.
Baal, finally, I'm wondering, isn't this all a big conflict for Israelis who are out on the streets week after week protesting for a return of the hostages, an end to the Gaza war, the preservation of Israeli democracy, calling for new elections? Because on the one hand, the key to pressuring Netanyahu and getting a hostage deal seems to rely heavily on Trump's good graces. Last night, thousands of protesters marched to the U.S. Embassy branch office in Tel Aviv. You were there. And on the other hand, the same President Donald Trump, who they're begging to help them pressure Netanyahu, is so blatantly interfering in Israeli democracy and legal due process and is fighting to, quote, save Netanyahu. So how do protesters and hostage families handle this contradiction?
I mean, personally, I want the 50 hostages back. And I believe that Israel cannot start over without them here, without the 20 who are alive and the others who are dead. And if they will not be here, we cannot get up from this horrible war that we are in the next 653 or 4 days. So I don't mind, this is me personally, I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody. I don't mind almost paying every price to Netanyahu just to bring them back. Because this is what we have now. We have Trump on one side, we have Netanyahu on the other side, and in the middle, all of the Israeli public that wants to have normal life again, without sirens, without bombing, without everything that happens here since October 7th, here and in Gaza. And without these hostages, and we cannot start anything. So if this is the cost to drop Netanyahu's charges, drop the charges. Okay, I don't mind. I just want them to be back home because I cannot send my kid 15 years from today to the army if I will not know that Israel will do everything to bring hostages back. You know, some of these hostages are soldiers that were on the front line on October 7th. This is me personally. If you ask the families, I believe that they think like me. But if you ask the major public, well, this is a real conflict. What is more important? To bring them back and to end the war, or to continue the war and the internal war here in Israel. There are a lot of voices in the last few weeks that says let's end Netanyahu's trial because everything is bad since that trial. And on 2018 and 2017, there were small protests next to Mandelblatt's house. Mandelblatt was the former Attorney General. The people there that protest there, everybody says that they're really extreme in their reflection about the reality. And they said that if Netanyahu will be charged and if he will go to court still in power, he will do everything to tear Israel apart. And Israel is torn apart. It's torn apart in the last 2 years from the war. It's torn apart from the internal war that was before that in 2023. And we need to put an end to that. And the first step to try and fix what's going on in Israel is to bring all the hostages back and to end the war. We cannot try and fix what's going on in the Israeli society without the hostages and without ending the war. Whatever the price will be, if you ask me, I will pay it.
Bar Peleg, hardworking Haaretz correspondent who's been reporting on Benjamin Netanyahu's criminal trials, criminal investigations, as well as the protest movement and what's happening in Gaza, too. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and thank you for your reporting.
Thank you for having me.
And that's it for this episode of the Haaretz Podcast. Thanks to my guest, Bar Peleg, and to producer and editor, Nara Malkin. If you would like to listen to our podcast and make sure you don't miss an episode, please don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to keep up with all the latest news on Israel, the Middle East, and the Jewish world, don't forget to subscribe and follow Haaretz.com. I'm Alison Kaplan-Summer, and until next time, shalom from Tel Aviv.